Hey everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, and today we are painting the Macaw Parrot. Macaw! Good job, Keenan.
Thank you.
We have Keenan who's working the cameras, and we will be doing this project in I don't know how many steps because Keenan is sitting in front of my notes
This is my spot, so I don't know.
Okay, 7 steps. You can sit back down after I do the steps, Keenan.
Well, but then, okay. What if you need them again?
Oh, you're right. You're going to have to move. You guys, we have been doing this for years. We're a professional business, and we figured this all out already. We're recreating it so you get the authentic experience.
Yes, we're very coordinated. What is a brush?
What are we doing here? Okay, 7 steps. Our very first step is we will be doing our first layer of yellow wash on our bird. Our second step is we'll be doing our first layer of blue and green wash on our bird, and then also starting to put in kind of our darker values on the yellow. Our third step is we will do the first layer on our branch. Our fourth step, we will put in our blue medium values. Our fifth step, we will do the beak and the feet. Our sixth step is we will finish up this branch, and then our last step is kind of putting in all of the details for our bird. So that's where we're going to do some feather textures, the eyeball, things like that. Okay, so this project is going to take some time. There is going to be some layering, and I want you to keep in mind we're not putting the eye in till the very end, which means your bird is going to look funky the whole time. That's okay. Don't judge it till you put the eye in, okay?
Okay.
We're using 2 paintbrushes for this, a round 6 and a round 2. These are the 4050 Princeton Heritage series. You can also use our Let's Make Art Classic series. Those are our top 2 brushes that we use. We're using 4 paint colors here. We have lemon yellow, leaf green, azure blue, and magenta. Now this paint is our in-house paint, which is Dandelion Paint Co. And we are using our in-house paper, which is LMA watercolor paper. It's cold press, 140 pound. Okay. We're gonna do our outline and then our oath, and then we'll get started. So I taped my, first I taped my paper down using my Holbein soft tape, and then I taped my outline to my paper, and then I'm going to take my graphite paper and do dark shiny side down, and whatever line I make, it will transfer onto my paper. And I always like to draw one and then lift up and test. Okay, that's pretty dark, so I'm going to do a lighter pressure. There we go. Okay, and you just keep on going. Now you got to remember a couple of things when it comes to outlines. One, these are guides for you. This isn't a coloring book, okay? So I don't want you to feel like you have to stay within the lines that I am providing. The other thing to remember is that watercolor is transparent, which means that these lines that you make, if you paint over them, the watercolor, if they're dark, they'll still show through. So that's why you try and make your lines as light as possible. The other thing is that not only do I use outlines to kind of help you with the overall shapes, but also I try and put in where there will be value changes. So you can see that I have some hash marks here and some diagonal lines. That's me trying to communicate to you that that's where we're going to see some darker values. You do not have to draw those in. So sometimes it's nice and handy just to keep the outline close to you when you're painting this project, because then you can refer to it and see, oh, where was that shadow, without actually having to draw it in.
Very helpful.
So if you wanna draw it in, you can. It's not necessary. It's more just me saying, hey, look at this. And there are a lot of lines on this outline, so this is just gonna take a minute. But I absolutely love painting birds. Is one of my favorite things to paint, mostly because you get such vibrancy in color with birds. Like, oh, you really can celebrate.
There are some super blue, even in the Midwest, birds that are gorgeous.
Yes. I mean, even like, we didn't have cardinals in California, and I remember our first winter here, it's white everywhere, right? Because it's just so snowy. And then you see these bright red cardinals in the trees. I mean, they were just gorgeous. And so I've always loved painting birds because I feel like it's just a celebration of color. And also I think like feathers are kind of a fun texture. I like that there's so many layers. You know what I mean? But sometimes because there are so many layers, you can get lost. So I try to simplify this for you guys here, especially as we're doing the blue part, where I'm kind of mostly just outlining the feathers instead of doing a super realistic form for each feather, because that just takes a really long time. And sometimes I just love being able to like paint it loose, put in kind of the gesture of feathers with some lines, and then like call it good. You know what I mean?
Yep. And
there's nothing wrong with either way that you want to paint. You know, some people are very, do more photorealism painting, which is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It takes a long time. And I like to be able to be done with a painting usually in one sitting, you know?
Same.
So that's why I tend to go for things that just are a little bit faster without losing the overall idea of what our subject is. Also, I'm using what is this, a jelly roll pen? I think Nicole had it left over from when she was filming, and it's actually being so great to do outlines with. Look how light my outline is.
Oh, wow.
And because it's colored ink, I know where I already drew.
Plot twist, it was left over from when I was filming.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Keenan, look at you.
Well, thank you.
Who are you? What do you film? I'm just kidding.
I don't film.
Okay, I think we got it. All right. Put that away. And now let's do our oath. So if you can raise your right hand. Do you know where the bell is?
I do. It's right behind me. I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to fall over, I promise.
Okay. He still has his arm up. He's crouching around. Okay. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Good job.
Oh, that was nice. That was good timing.
That was a good one.
That was a great oath.
Okay. Let's get started. I'm grabbing my round 6. I'm getting it wet. I'm hitting it off the side of the cup so it's not dripping wet. I'm picking up some yellow. I'm going to grab my paintbrush back into the water to lighten up that yellow, because we want this to be a light value wash. Whenever you want to lighten a color in watercolor, you just add water to it. That's why I love it so much. Okay, so now I have my light yellow, and I'm just going to start painting the chest area. Now remember, you can use your water to spread out the color. So what we're doing here is we're putting in our lightest value first. Now, if you're familiar at all with painting in general, watercolor is different in the way that traditionally you build up your values. So you put in your lightest ones first, and then you add your medium and then your dark. And that's how you build up form. Where if you're painting in oil or acrylic, usually it's opposite, where you put your dark values in first and then your lighter values on top. So that's why if you go back and forth, it can like play with your mind. Not that you can't do it, but I just want to say that distinction. So what we're putting in here is these light values. So you see like these highlights on this yellow?
Yeah.
That's what we're putting in right now.
Oh, okay. One of my favorite things to do, I love a circle shape when it comes to watercolor. So I like to trace things that are circles, right? And I love outlining the entire circle with a really dark color or a really concentrated color, and then just spreading it out with water. It looks so good.
Yeah. Now I want to call attention to the shadows that we have on our outline, which is underneath the head, underneath the wing, and as the body is going out underneath. And that's because it's all of those things, there's something on top of it casting a shadow, or the form itself is turning away from the light. That's why there's a darker value there, because it's getting less light. So while this is wet, I'm just gonna put in, I'm gonna just grab a little bit more of the yellow and put it in those areas. So I'm looking at underneath the wing, underneath the head here. Now, if you're looking at your reference and you're like, this is a very different yellow than the reference photo, that's because we haven't done the magenta part yet. We're gonna add some magenta to our yellow to create like an orange, and that's where you get that warmth. We're just not there, okay? We're just doing our first layer, so don't stress. Okay. Now we are going to do our second wash, or our second step, which is a light blue wash and then the little hint of green that's on the top. So I'm gonna rinse my brush, hit it off the side of the cup, grab some blue, and I'm gonna add a little water to that blue to make sure it's a nice light value. I'm gonna start just spreading this blue. Now, because this is my initial layer, my very first layer, when there's probably going to be 2 or 3 layers on this, I'm not, you can see I'm not being like, I'm not stressing. You know what I mean? Like I'm letting myself paint a little bit loose. I'm painting quickly.
Not as particular about placement.
Yeah. Really, we're just kind of like putting the color on. And then when I get to the top here, I'm going to do blue, use some water, spread that out, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of my green, do green on the top here, rinse it, and then spread that color so it meets the blue. And it creates like such a gorgeous turquoise color right there. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
And don't forget to put in some blue down here. Oh, and I got my other wing on this side. Now be careful because your yellow still might be wet. Okay.
Nice.
That was step 2.
Wow.
Nope, we're still on step 2 because we're going to put in our orange.
Ooh.
So I'm going to take my yellow and grab a little bit of magenta and mix that together to get this really pretty orange color.
Do you know what I discovered is a really difficult color for me to mix? Brown.
Really?
Yes, I struggled. It took me about an hour to get a good brown.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But you got it, yeah?
I figured it out, yeah.
Okay. So now that I have this orange, I'm going to start putting orange in the places that I talked about a little bit earlier. Now, I want you to look at this. I'm putting in the orange, and then after I put in the orange, I'm rinsing my brush and blending this orange out. We like transitions, smooth transitions here, okay?
Also quick action, you're saying.
Well, I'm just saying, like, don't just put in the orange and then walk away from it. Rinse your brush, use that water to spread it out so then it's a smoother transition and it doesn't have like such hard lines. You know what I mean?
Check.
Okay. So what we're doing here is we're adjusting our value by hue as well as by value. So value is all about the lightness and darkness of a color and not necessarily about the color itself. Now, in order to create form or three-dimensionality, you need to have a range of values. So when you think of a circle and you think of a sphere, the shape is the same. The only thing that's different is the value on that shape, and that is what creates form. That's what makes it feel like you can pick it up and grab it, okay? Now, you can create form by just adjusting the values, but what I really like to do, because I feel like it adds a richness to your painting, is you also adjust the hue along with the value. So we're doing that. So instead of just doing more yellow in these darker value areas, I'm actually putting orange in there as well. So not only am I putting in a darker value, but I'm introducing another hue. So it's creating that form, but it has a color richness in it instead of doing just yellow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I absolutely love introducing other hues into my value transitions because I feel like it just makes it full. That color just, you know. Like, look at that already. Doesn't that just feel
full?
Yeah. Nice and full. Okay. And I'm going to do one more. I'm going to mix a little bit more magenta in there and get an even darker orange. Because as you can see, and we'll do this kind of more towards the end, especially right here as this body is turning away from the light and going underneath, we get really dark here, okay? So remember that you can add more. Keep going, you know?
I love that orange color.
It's like sunset orange.
Exactly. It's so nice.
It's your favorite color. And just remember, I put that color in. Now I'm using water to spread it.
Lately, my favorite color has been cookies and cream Twix.
I love a good color transition, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's amazing that what looks like white on that bird was actually a yellow wash.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Okay. Now we're gonna let that dry. We still need to go a little bit darker on the bottom of this body, but it's too wet right now. Sometimes the other thing with watercolor is if you're trying to darken an area and put in darker values and you put it in there, it will just kind of spread if the area is too wet and not stay dark. So that's when you need to let your painting dry for a little bit before you go back in and really try and put in those dark values. That's where we're at right now. So we're gonna let this dry and we'll come back to it. Now we're gonna move on to step 3, which is our branch. And we will be mixing a brown for this branch.
What?
Now, when it comes to brown, first of all, what you have to know about brown is it's dark orange, okay?
Yes.
So we have orange already because we mix our magenta and our yellow. The other thing with brown is usually if you just mix almost any two complementary colors together, you can get a brown. I'm trying to think of how much detail I should go into. Complementary colors are directly across from each other on the color wheel. So for example,
that's good to know.
Yes, so we don't have red, but our magenta is acting as our red. So we have two complementary colors already, magenta and green. So let's just mix those together. Brown.
Wow. Okay. I'm really glad you can mix brown so quick.
Okay, but here's the thing. When you mix browns, depending on the ratios, they're gonna have stronger undertones. Okay, so for example, let's say you keep adding green and you're like, okay, this is a green brown.
Yes.
If it's getting too green, add more magenta. If your brown is looking too red or pink, add more green. And those complementary colors tone each other down when you mix them together. Now you can also introduce other colors just to get different variations. So if I were to mix some blue in here, whoa, did you see how green that turned my brown?
Holy cow.
How brown, yeah, I said that right.
Yeah, you said it right.
I actually don't dislike that.
No, that looks nice.
I feel like it kind of grayed it.
Yeah.
Like made it more gray, like desaturated it a little. Let's add some orange in there just to, oh, there we go. That's a good brown.
That's a great brown.
Okay, sweet.
That only took you like 3 minutes.
So, Keenan, I'm sorry. So, the biggest thing to remember when you're mixing browns especially is remember you always have the option to add other colors to like level it. I think of it kind of like a seesaw.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes one color might pull stronger than the other. Sometimes that's okay and you're okay with it. But if you want to kind of level it back out, you can add the opposite color or the complement color and that will, or I guess maybe more of a scale would be.
I like a seesaw. It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
To get that to be level.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you ever try doing that
Oh,
when
yeah.
you did like just stay right in the middle, suspended
I was
in
always
air?
very tiny though. When there was a seesaw, like 4'9" and like 87 pounds. All my friends and siblings were bigger than me.
Okay, so we're gonna just put in our light value. So I'm gonna actually grab some water, pull some brown off to the side, add some water in there so it's a light brown. And let's start putting it in. Now, if you look on my outline here, you'll remember that the bottom part, and especially underneath the feet, we have darker values. And that's because, again, that form is going away from the light, and then the bird's feet are on top of it. So that form on top of the form is going to cast a shadow. Now, I love painting like branches and trees and things like that because, first of all, they're so funky. Like, I am telling you that somewhere you will find a branch that looks like what you're painting. I mean, it exists. Have you ever stopped and looked at a tree and been like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like,
have you done that and said it out, like looked at the tree and like, what? What is this? Because that's a great question, but
you know what?
You can see.
I have seen some trees where I have stopped and said, that's a weird tree shape. Keenan?
Sarah.
Listen.
You talk, well, you're right. I have seen some branches that I'm shocked. Fun fact, so my brother owns a small mill, okay? A consumer-sized mill, not like a giant building that's got a mill that cuts down large logs.
Okay.
He cut into a tree one time and it was white.
Whoa.
It's a sycamore tree. So have you ever seen the tree that kind of looks like it's losing its bark?
Yeah.
So it's a white tree. It is white through and through. It is the craziest look. It's so cool.
That is so cool.
It's neat.
Okay, so I put in my tree branch. Now, the other thing about branches and trees, depending on the type of tree, like I'm sure you guys are familiar with different types of woods and how they have different colors. You know what I mean? Like I feel like walnut is usually like a darker brown, and I'm trying to think of the one that's really red. Keenan, help me out. What's a wood that tends to be a little bit more red? Is it cedar?
I'm thinking cedars. Yeah, cedars, because they've done that as you know, like roofing, cedar shake.
So what I'm saying, why I'm saying this is like, it's okay if you have like tones of other colors with this brown. And I'm actually introducing a little bit more. I mix some magenta into my brown just to like, I don't know, put a little bit of different color in there.
I would also like to bring to light the trees in Hawaii that are rainbow colored.
What?
Have you seen those?
No, I don't think I haven't. I've lived there.
They are amazing. When you pull the bark off, they are multicolored.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll find a picture, I'll show you.
Yeah, please do. And I'm just putting a little bit darker layer at the base of my branch here, and then underneath the feet, like that. And this area is still pretty wet that it should just kind of blend. Now we will be doing like a more dry brush technique to finish off this tree. And if you did our Elephant Friends tutorial, it's that similar technique. But we're not quite there yet because we gotta wait for this to dry. Whoa! What? Keenan, Chris, put the picture right here so people can see what we're seeing.
Okay.
Insane. Wow, that's so beautiful. Okay.
It's called a rainbow eucalyptus deglupta tree.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay. So we started putting in our branch. We'll go back and we'll finish it off. Also, I just want to call attention to, and this is a beautiful thing, when we mix our colors, when we mix our browns, when we mix our yellows and our oranges, they're never the exact same. And that's why, like on my reference photo, this was definitely more a gray brown. You see that? Yes. I feel like it's grayer.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a warmer brown. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that. I like the variation that you can get. I love that every time you paint something, it's different. Like, that's a beautiful thing to me. So that's why I don't spend a lot of time telling you specifically, we're gonna do 3 drops of this color and 2 drops of this color, because I want you to, one, it's better for you guys to learn how to mix your color without all of that. Like, I want you to just learn by error and trying things. And I know that's really frustrating, but that is how you learn the quickest and the fastest, to where you won't rely on people telling you how you need to mix your color to get the color you want. And 2, there is nothing wrong with it being different than what you're trying to recreate. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, like, celebrate the fact that you're an artist and you get to make these decisions and all of those things. So yes, okay, we're moving on. We're gonna go to step 4. We're gonna go back to our blues and start putting in our blues, like our medium value blues. So you'll see on my outline here that I have different feather shapes. I'm going to take my round 6. I'm gonna pick up some azure blue. And I'm just gonna start to put these shapes in. So I'm using the tip of my brush, the point, so it's light pressure. I'm kind of sketching. You see how I'm just like, it's not like I'm like painstakingly, don't do that.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, just like sketch it. Sketch it means light lines. If there's a couple that kind of connect like this. And we're just going to start putting in the general shapes and layers of our feathers here.
I like what you said about making errors, and that's a fast way of learning.
Yep.
I made several errors trying to mix the color brown, and then I got to film with you today, and I learned how to mix a brown much faster.
Well,
so it's definitely a benefit, though, to having a teacher like you where you can teach us the way you do. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Keenan. And like, I just think, like, if you're painting and you're trying to mix brown and it takes you an hour, like, was that probably painful and frustrating for you? Yes. I think that if you went the next day and tried to mix that same brown, that you would get it faster even without watching this? Yeah, I do. And because like you learned, and I think the first time it's also really painful to do anything, and it always seems so much longer than it is. And then like as you do it over and over again, you're like, okay, I've been here before. I know that I'll get to where I need to go. I'll just be patient while I get there. True. Okay, so I rinsed my brush, and now I'm just gonna kind of like keep following these shapes and use water to kind of blend out these values. So I'm staying within the different feather shapes and blending the paint color that I already put down out so I can get different values here. Now you'll notice I'm not just taking my brush and going. We don't want that. We want to stay within the shape of the feathers. And what if you're like, well, I'm trying to blend out my color, but it's just not blending? You can always pick up paint on your brush too if you're trying to blend and it's just not working. That's always an option. Okay.
Look at those leaves.
You mean eyeball shapes?
The
you
eyeball
mean football shapes?
The football shapes. The lips.
There are a lot of inside jokes there, so if this is your first tutorial here, I'm sorry that you're not quite a part of those jokes yet.
But you will be.
But you will be. Just keep watching. Just watch everything we've ever filmed.
It'll be easy. There's only 212 tutorials.
Is that really how much there are?
Actually, your 200th was in July.
Oh, wow.
And that's just watercolor.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of tutorials. That's not counting the lives we used to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just kind of, again, going over. I'm spreading the color a little bit more liberally than I was doing before because my light value, my initial wash, is now so light that it's looking white. So I gotta kind of like, and that's the thing when I say your painting will inform you as you go, which means you have to adjust your levels of value as you're painting. So our very first values, sometimes by the end, are so light that they look white on the paper, and that's when you have to bring them in a little bit too. You know what I mean? So like that's what I'm doing here. I'm adjusting the highlights. Again, I'm not blending everything. I still have moments that are that really light value, but the overall color, I want it to be a little bit, the value's just a little bit darker. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to put in the green right here. So I'm going to grab a little bit green. Now this leaf green is kind of like a chartreuse color.
That sounds yummy. My charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board of color.
I might be hungry. I don't know.
And I'm going to actually add a little bit of blue to it, just to kind of brighten it up just a little bit. And I'm going to put that
You know what's so amazing to me? When you added blue to the green and magenta mixture, it made it a gray and like dulled it a little bit. But when you added blue to the green, it made it a brighter green.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, colors are trippy. So I have my green here, and then I'm also going to put that same green just on the tip right here, and then use water to blend that out. That looks good. I mixed a little bit of just the green and blue together to get that kind of turquoise, because I want that kind of vibrant turquoise on the very top where these green and blue meet. There. Beautiful. Okay, now we're gonna work on the beak and the feet. So first things first, right underneath these blue feathers before this foot, it's supposed to be yellow right here. I didn't put that in, so I'm gonna just put that in now. Boop, 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 boop.
I thought you were gonna say first things first, I'm the realist.
What song is that from?
I wish I could tell you that,
You
but
don't
I have
know?
no idea the name of the song.
What
And
is
it might
it?
potentially be inappropriate. I don't know.
We are a family-friendly show, Keenan, so can you
You're right.
keep it together?
You're right.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let that dry, so I'm gonna go to the beak. Now, we're mixing like a black color here, but we don't have black.
Fun.
I'm essentially just gonna mix all my colors together, and I'm gonna use the same rules as I do when mixing brown. But the difference between mixing black and browns is browns usually have warm undertones and black usually has cool undertones. So when I'm mixing browns, I usually tend to add more red or yellow or orange to get that warmth, because that's what makes that brown color. When I'm mixing blacks, I want my undertones to be more blue or purple, because those are the undertones that speak more true to black.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
That just blew my mind, actually.
Okay, so you can even like keep mixing off this brown color if you want. I'm not, because I'm actually gonna save that for when we do our rough texture. So I'm just gonna mix a whole new thing. So I'm gonna start with blue and magenta. Oh, first of all, just like take a look at that
Yeah, that's lovely.
purple. Oh, just beautiful. Okay.
Charcuterie.
And then I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and introduce that just to see what that does. Now it's probably going to turn it green. Oh, it just turned it like a little bit darker blue. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit more magenta. And let's try some orange here. There we go. See how that orange kind of is neutralizing that color? Let's do a little bit more orange. Now, this is where mixing colors gets a little bit tricky.
When you start running out of space on your palette.
Yes, 100% yes. But also I need to mix orange to put in here. So here's some more orange. Okay, there we go.
Ooh, that's nice.
That's a nice, so like really this color is more like an indigo. But because of how concentrated that color is together and compared to the other colors here, it's gonna read as a really dark value, it's gonna read as black, okay? So I'm gonna take this color and I'm gonna put in the beak. Now I do have a section here on my outline that's dashed, and that's me showing there is a sheen on this beak, which means it's a lighter value. So I'm going to paint around that, and then using water, I'm going to do water in the middle to get a lighter value. So it has that glare. Yeah? Because even if something is black, there's still different values on it. There's still highlights, there's still lowlights, there's still median values. That's really hard for our brain to comprehend, but if you tell your brain to stop talking and really just look at the colors and the values that you're seeing, like, it's not really black, you know?
You've used the example of dog fur.
Yep.
Or even a black dog fur has hints of blue, or a dark navy or something.
So isn't it interesting how like that looks black on
it does.
our, so great, like, sorry. Okay, and then my bottom part of my beak, there's not quite that same sheen. So this one is mostly going to be just black, or just this like color that we mixed in here.
As a kid, did you ever watch the show Jimmy Neutron?
Yeah.
His best friend's name was Sheen.
Sheen?
Yes.
That's a good name.
I agree.
Sheen.
Super random name.
Okay. And I left a little bit of a space here where the top and the bottom meet. I'm going to thin out that line, but I just want it to be a little bit obvious that those are different pieces meeting. I will go back and do another layer on my beak to really like darken the edge, but I'm going to wait for it to dry. Okay? Now we're going to do the feet. The feet are kind of like a gray, so we already have our black mixed. So I'm just going to take some of that, add a little water to it, and now I have a gray. And I really did not do a lot of detail on the feet. I don't know, I just feel like, for me, when I paint stuff, it's like, if people can tell what's going on, then like, why do I have to spend a ton more time in that? And who really loves painting feet?
Nobody.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
I just like, that's
It's
not the fun
wrong
part for me. It's not colorful, and they're kind of weird looking and fleshy, and like have these ridges and
talons.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm just gonna give people enough information so they know what's going on, and then I'm gonna call it good and move on to the fun part.
They can guess the rest.
Yeah, like, you know that that's feet.
Have you ever seen the bird? Never mind.
Okay, I'm gonna switch to a 2 to do the actual like talon part.
How big is a macaw?
I have no idea. I think they're pretty big.
I'm gonna Google it.
Okay, and we're gonna let that dry. We'll do some more textures on it once it's more dry, because even though I don't love painting feet, you know, we still have to have a little bit of value range on those feet to give them form. Okay. Okay, let's move back to our branch. Are you dry enough? You're dry. Okay, now I'm gonna do kind of like this dry brush technique to create some cool, rough textures on our branch that's gonna mimic bark. So I have my brown. I made sure my brush was fairly dry before picking up this paint. And you just want to make sure that whatever you're mixing, it needs to be a darker value than whatever you're painting on, so it shows up. So I'm going to actually grab a little bit of that black in there to darken. And then I'm just going to take my 6 and kind of like put in these rough textures here. You see that?
Beautiful.
Gosh, I love this technique.
Macaws range from 2.7 feet to 3.3 feet.
Whoa.
In I think overall length.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So this is where, like, see how funky I'm being with my brush? Be funky, you know what I mean? Like, let's see what kind of textures we can make. You can even use different size brushes if you want. And I'm gonna go in And what am I doing here? I'm gonna mix a darker brown. And I just feel like I need to do just a little bit darker bottom on this branch.
That looks like a real log.
Oh gosh. Don't you just love it? I love techniques where it makes it seem like I worked really, really hard to get something done. And I was just like, no, it's just a dry brush. Beautiful. There's our branch. Okay, now on our step-by-step list, we're going into the details part now, but I think I need to do one more layer across my bird before I do my details. Your bird may not need it. So look at your painting and decide, do I need to darken these values, or is the value range that I have like good and I can call it good and I don't need to do another layer? For me, I feel like I still need another layer on my yellow chest and my blue and the top of my head just a little bit. What I'm trying to do is, even though I have different values here, I feel like they're a little bit one note, and I want to create a spectrum of value. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like I can work it a little bit more to get more values in there. So I'm going to mix, I have an orange here. And I'm going to do, now this is mostly dry. So I'm going to start putting some orange here. Yeah, like already I'm like, yes. And what I also really love to do is, even though we're adjusting value by hue by adding orange, we can go back in and drop in just pure yellow, and it's just going to make it pop. Like, look how rich that yellow looks now. It's gold, you know what I mean? Like,
it's alive.
It's vibrant.
That's the word.
Yeah. So, like, do both. Adjust by hue, adjust by value. I put in orange, and then I went back in and dropped in some strong yellow, and it's like, pow-pow. Now, I will say that I probably got a little bit too dark on my yellow here. I'm going to try and lift some out. I got really excited and I lost my value. That's super easy to do. Take a damp brush.
Language. This is a family show.
And just lift. And that's going to lift out some of the color so you can get your highlight back. Okay. We're going to go back in to here. Gosh, I just love. Yes. Now, as we get to the feet, remember how I said that brown is essentially dark orange?
Yes.
So as we're doing a shadow for our orange, yellow, gold chest, I'm going to be utilizing a little bit of brown and maybe a little bit of that magenta to really get that dark value, to show like, yeah, this body is going underneath. It's turning away from the light. It's going underneath the body. There we go. I feel like I need some stronger color here on the side. And then also underneath the wing. Don't forget underneath the wing, because we need to separate those planes. We really want it to be obvious that that blue is sitting on top of the yellow. So we got to push. We got to push it back using darker values. There we go. Okay.
Look at this little guy just coming together.
That's feeling really good. Let's move on to the top of the head. I feel like I just need, again, like I said, just a little bit darker value on the end here. Rinse your brush, kind of blend it out. That feels really good. I'm going to do this turquoise color. I'm going to get a little bit darker by the eye. And don't worry, we'll go back in when this is all dry and put in our feather textures. We're not quite there yet. We got to get the undertones done. That feels really good. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit darker value on the green where it meets the black for the beak. Okay, that feels good. And let's do another layer of blue on our feathers. So I'm taking azure blue and I'm just going to kind of follow the shape of these feathers. Now remember, I'm not going for super realism here. I'm just kind of, I want to show that there are layers. I want to show that there are feathers. And so I'm staying within those different shapes and building on top of them. But allow yourself to get a little messy. Allow yourself to blend. Allow yourself to be loose. That's when you'll, I don't know. That's fun for me. Maybe that's not the fun part for you, but.
It gives me when you say to be loose, it gives me a freedom because I, like you mentioned in the beginning, don't treat it like a coloring book, stay in the lines.
Yeah.
I always try to stay in the lines. I'm not good at it, so it stresses me out.
Yeah.
And so when you're like, just relax.
And the other thing that I want to start doing is I'm going to mix a little bit of that black that I had for the beak in with my blue to get like a nice darker blue. And where like these feathers meet the yellow, kind of up here, I'm going to start introducing, see those darker values right here?
Yeah.
And right here, I'm going to start introducing those. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we're getting some depth here. And then this wing on the other side, it's going to be a really dark value because it's underneath. We're only seeing the underneath part of the wing, so it's shadowed, it's close to the body, it's going to be pretty dark. If you want to use your round 2 for this, you can, since it's such a tight area. But we want the edge of this wing to be a lighter blue because that's the top. So the top of the wing should be a lighter value than the underneath part of the wing. Okay, and then here, these are tail feathers on the reference photos. So for the most part, just so you guys know, for the most part for these reference photos, I use like photography websites that allow artists to use their photographs, which is amazing. So the top 2 I probably use the most is Pixabay and Unsplash. So if you want to see the actual reference photo that I'm using, like sometimes I'll combine them, sometimes I'll just use it straight up, sometimes I'll crop it, that kind of thing. But like you can look at pictures of different parrots and macaw parrots and this coloring. And like I remember when I was looking at my reference photo, it was like, I don't know, it just got really, it wasn't super clear what was going on here, so that's why it's a little bit loose. But yeah.
That's cool.
And then I'm kind of just outlining. And then, oh, doesn't that feel better?
Yes.
I'm gonna keep doing details on my blue feathers. I switched to my 2 so I can get some nice thin lines as I'm going here. Now you can kind of see where I was doing my dark blue into my yellow and it bled a little bit. I'm not gonna stress about things like that. It's really not a big deal. There. Maybe on some of these bigger ones you can go in and just kind of do a kind of a serrated edge. Like so. Getting kind of hints. Okay, that feels pretty good.
Yeah, that looks nice.
There. Okay. Now we're gonna go into the feet and do that kind of like rough, just a little like rough, darker values on the top here, just to separate the feet from each other because they were kind of bleeding into each other. Give them a little bit of form, a little bit of shape. Again, I'm not spending a lot of time on these because it's feet, you know? Okay. Okay.
What material are those claws? I don't know the term.
The
Texture?
talons?
What are the talons? Do they have fur on them?
I don't think so. I think they're like hard. I feel like it would be similar to like a chicken talon.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay, I'm mixing some dark, again, some black for the face. So I'm gonna go back and do darker value on the nose. Just on the top part, really kind of accentuate that highlight. And then using my 2, we just do these little baby feathers to do that patterning. And do little dashes. Okay, we got the nose here too. Okay. Sorry, I'm just blending out this dark that I put on the nose. That hard edge was just bothering me a little bit, so I needed to tone it down. Okay, now I'm gonna do the eye. So using my 2, I'm gonna kind of outline the whole eye, but try and do as thin of a line as you can. And then we're going to do the pupil, but leave some white spots for the glare.
That just changed that thing's face. Holy.
I feel like I need to bring this in a little bit.
Now he's got a name.
What's his name?
Percy.
Percy. That's a great name.
Kind of like a butler name too, though.
Yeah.
Percy, welcome, sir.
Okay, I need to put in my, I didn't put in my yellow and orange. So on the tail feathers. So I'll just do that really quick. Got my yellow, got some magenta, mixing a nice gold orange color. Just gonna put that in.
Sarah, can you do a project month of just like really good roasted foods. You know, just like have a pot roast.
Do people want to learn how to paint a pot roast?
Who doesn't want to learn? I need to learn how to cook one and paint one. That's what we call a well-rounded individual.
Well, I'm not going to say no to that. You guys let me know if a pot roast
seems appealing to paint.
Maybe like a ham, like a glazed honey ham.
Yes. Sliced, like mid-slice with a knife in there.
And this is, I'm just kind of tidying up where some areas met that I kind of kept white. You can just use water to blend out the color that's already there. Okay. And now we're still on our last step. But I'm just going to go into the part of the chest and do some feather textures there, and then I think we're good to go. So,
Sarah, I have one concern.
Yeah.
This looks nothing like a chicken.
What? Was I supposed to be painting a chicken?
That's what I was told.
Okay. So I'm gonna mix like a red brown, dark orange, red, brown, okay? So I got some yellow, I got some magenta, I got a little bit of brown here. Remember, we want to make sure that it's just a darker value than what we're putting on here so it shows up. Okay, now I'm gonna do, like, if you're looking at the outline, I have some like areas where the feathers gathered right here. So that's what I'm gonna put in, and I'm gonna use my round 2. So we're just kind of showing, yes, this part is feathers too. These are lots of little pieces coming together, gathering together, and we have some hint of texture, we have some hint of layers. I'm gonna do it right, I feel like right underneath here needs some. Here. These finishing details are some of my favorite things to do because they're just tiny little marks, you know, tiny little texture lines. But I feel like they add a lot.
I agree. I mean, some simple lines in the eye changed the bird's face.
Yeah. Just don't go too crazy with these. That's what I had to learn, is like, because I think they're so fun, because I feel like they add so much, I just want to keep going and going and going. And then the next thing I know, my entire bird is these tiny little lines, and I'm like, oh. I'm just putting in a darker value right underneath here. That feels good. Let's put in a darker value right underneath this branch on this yellow. Dang.
Nice.
That's a good bird. That's
Great.
a good.
Great chicken. That's the prettiest chicken I've ever seen.
It's a gorgeous chicken. I wonder what kind of eggs. Okay. Sorry, I just keep on seeing things. It's really just me adding in. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't stop, because I got to do the little feather textures on the top of the head.
I was just going to say that.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the top of his head, question mark?
Good job, Keenan.
Thank you.
So this one I'm going to do a little bit of a blue, a darker blue. And again, just these kind of like thin lines gathered. Just doing hints.
Oh, wow. That
Maybe
added
mess it up a little bit.
That added some depth.
Didn't it? I'm messing it up just a little bit to get a little bit more range and value. Yes.
That's so nice.
I'm so happy with how this turned out. Okay. And maybe the back just got a little bit too light, so I'm gonna we're done.
Wow.
Percy. It's beautiful. Let's remove our tape. Slowly peel away. Be gentle.
That's a nicely sliced log.
I really love doing the dry brush texture on that tree branch.
Oh man, it does look incredible. And like you said, minimal work, maximum results. I don't actually
That's
think
what I'm all about. What's Sarah's work ethic? She wants it to look like she works really hard, but not actually.
And what you guys don't know, she actually warms up every day by painting a pot roast. So that's why I suggested it.
Okay. There is our macaw parrot.
Wow.
Tropical birds are just so fun to paint. Okay. I need to stop talking about how much I love this painting so much. Thank you guys so much for painting with me. I hope you had a good time. I know this one did a lot of layers and a lot of patience, but in the end, I hope you're happy with your result. If you're not, it's just a piece of paper. Throw it away, start again. This lesson is here for you always, and especially if this is one of your first times painting with watercolor, it's a really great idea. If you're not quite ready for this project, put it away, do some other projects, put some practice in, put some time in, come back to it, and you will surprise yourself. If you're dedicated and you put that time in, you'll be able to make something that you're proud of. So share. I want to see what you guys are making. Everybody else wants to see it. So if you're on Facebook, you can join our Facebook watercolor group. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor, and you can share what you're working on. It's a large community, but it's very kind and very welcoming, and we celebrate every stage of the journey. The scary beginning, the messy middle, and I don't like to say the end because I feel like there's always room to improve. And then if you're on Instagram, you can tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. It's really fun to see your guys' work. So I think that's all I got to say. Keenan, been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys later. Bye.